It's Saturday. It's Saturday night, and I feel all right. So tonight's, it is not a Voron, okay? Or at least this doesn't look like any Voron that we currently have. And I'm already dropping shit. So, I've hinted at this thing a few times in previous streams. This is called the bonsai. It's a design off Thingiverse. I started building it last winter probably. And it is mostly spare parts from my Monoprice Select Mini. These motors here are Monoprice Select Mini. And spare extrusions from various Voron builds. The rods and whatnot were from when Tallboy was a V1, a 1.5. So the only money I've actually put into this thing is for this questionable bed, 12 volt, some cheap NEMAs, and a screen that I won't be able to use because it's going to be running Clipper, and this is an MKS screen. So the reason I am not working on a Voron is they're all built right now. I want to make some videos first before I go into streaming some stuff. I need to swap the Tallboy or the switch wire over to Mainsail OS, which if you don't know, there's a new update now. It's 0.09 is now live. Thanks, Ray. So I'll probably do the video on that and a few other things. But as for streaming Voron content, I'm going to have to wait a week or two just to build up some stuff to do. So this guy's been collecting dust for a while. And the reason I started this was, one, I started this build before 2.4 was a thing. I was waiting on stuff to come in. This was basically to kill time when I was bored. But also, I wanted a not Voron because it's kind of hard to do instructional videos on how to print ABS and whatnot, beginner tips for a printer, when all you have are Vorons that work great out of the box. So it's kind of like teaching somebody to drive on, like, you know, a Corvette or any other high-end car. So I kind of wanted a quote-unquote cheap, crappy printer, and I had enough spare parts for, like, I think I put $40 into this thing. Plus I have a spare flex plate because flex plates are awesome. So I got to the point where it needed to be wired up, and then stuff started coming in for the 2.4. Oh. Let me get the camera back online. Why aren't you working? 1 second here. Properties. Deactivate. Activate. There we go. So stuff started coming in for the 2.4. And then once stuff started coming in for the 2.4, this kind of took a back seat. So it's a very basic i3 build. I'll link the design for it. It's off Thingiverse, so it kind of has Thingiverse problems. I think the guy who designed it did a pretty good job. But everything's kind of designed for PLA. They had some fitment issues with parts. There's still some missing. Actually, I still don't have a Z Endstop because this thing is designed to use a BL Touch up in here, which I do have a BL Touch, but I don't like them. And I'm just going to go with a fixed Z because doing bed mesh on a 120 millimeter bed is kind of overkill. I have printed couplers for my Z motors because we go an old school baby. Now, the thing is, I actually did buy proper, couplers. The problem is they don't actually fit in here. They're so wide they hit the Z rods. So or at least the screw heads do. So they're just too fat. I tried putting them in. They don't fit. I could buy the cheaper one, but honestly, I'm just going to roll with the printed plastic ones because why not? What else? It does have some issues with the way the belt is for the Y, where it actually doesn't travel straight. For those that don't know, whenever you're designing belt paths, you want them straight, parallel, perpendicular. You don't want them going all off in weird directions. So this, I had to actually redesign the mount for it because the belt kind of went up to the bed and then down. So as it moved, it would rub against the idlers and whatnot more and less depending on where the bed was. It wasn't great. So, and the extruder is literally, you know, the complete old school back in the day where it's got a smooth idler, a Mark 8 gear, and it's direct feed. Because this does support Bowden, but I wanted to put the I wanted old school on it. I want this guy to be old school entry level. Because if it's entry level, then it's easier to... It's a more accurate representation when it comes to helping people, you know, print certain things. Oh, stream froze. Stream froze! Or camera froze. Camera froze. Did we lose the camera? Yeah, 1 second. Lost the feed! Lost the feed! Lost the feed. There we go. We back? We back. Okay. So as you can see right now, it currently has a ramps. And while it does have some 2208s, we, thanks to Banggood and their generous contribution to the previous build, where they gave me an SKR Mini E3 V2, which there's a link in the description if you want to purchase one through Banggood. I do get a small kickback through the affiliation program. If you want, it's there. If not, don't worry about it. But anyways, because they gave me that, I now have a spare 1.2. So we're going to be getting rid of this ramps. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of this ramps, and then I got to put the bed on because it the bed is, as you can see, not attached. So we got to figure that out, and then we got to figure out. And this thing is designed to use a fixed bed, not an adjustable bed. So we're going to have to literally like just figure stuff out on the fly here. So there should be some fun tonight. I have no real plans. Whatever happens, happens tonight. I found my old rearm the other day. I have a, it's funny, I have an Arduino Do that, long story short, a bunch of the older, like, not older, but guys who've been in the Voron group long enough, we all have Arduino Do's. Because way back in the day when Taco Raven was originally in early dev, it was just going to be a hat for the Arduino Grand Central, I think it was, is the new one. And Taco Raven was just going to be a hat for it, kind of like a ramps. But then we went off and somehow we got crazy and made our own board. Okay, so ramps is gone. So we got to figure out how to mount this bed. Because the way the bed is, I think I'm going to put heat set inserts in here so I can just screw down into it. Because it's going to be hard to see. But the way it is, there's really not a lot of room at travel because it actually, yeah, to get to max, actually, let me see here. I'm worried about travel because this thing, I don't even know what the spec size is for print volume, but I legit just used like extrusions that I had laying around. So I think I actually have properly, if I go off data, it's 120 by about 100. I think I actually have about 140 in the Y. But that's just because I didn't bother cutting scrap extrusions that I had. So let's see. Yeah, so I might have to cut some stuff here because there's no way that's going to fit. Now, I do have Yeah, I'm gonna have to heat set some stuff here. Yeah, we're gonna heat set. So this is a printed bed too, because you know what? I'm just gonna heat set them in while the bed's mounted. I'm not gonna bother taking the bed off. Screw it. Yeah, we're gonna do this way. Where's my shitty iron? And actually, originally, I was going to use the bed for my Monoprice Select Mini, but this thing barely struggles to hit 70C, and I want to print ABS, so I don't know what I'm ever going to use this for, but this is the bed for Monoprice. Yeah. Actually, while that's heating up, I'm going to catch up on chat, because I haven't really checked it yet. Am I going clipper on this? Yes, I actually, it won't obviously be moving tonight because I am out of Raspberry Pis. I have one Raspberry Pi 3 left over still, and that is probably going in this guy for when I clipperize it. So I need to get my hands on, I think I'm going to try and get a 3A. I'm going to run this guy with a 3A instead of a Pi Zero. I'm going to probably hook it up via UART like how I did on the V0. So I'll get a 0 or a 3A, but I need another Pi before this guy can run. Greetings from Denmark. Thanks for making me finally get around to order parts for Voron. Cost me money I don't have and stuff. Yes, but you will have a Voron. Because why have, no Voron and money when you can have Voron and no money? Why do I have, 4 Vorons and no money when I can have no Vorons and 4 money? I have an old Roomba ramps with 6 drivers. Oh no, I'm good. I've got plenty of ramps. I'm good on controller boards. This is like the only in progress printer I have. So, and I have quite a few options for controllers from stuff I already have. So we're going to put some heat set inserts. So this bed is a 12 volt PCB bed, and the actual carriage is printed. So this thing is definitely going to be kind of an oddball printer for sure. I really should drill these out a little bit more, but YOLO. Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to have to clean these out. Oh, come on. So yeah, so I'm hoping like the bed carriage is ABS. So I'm hoping I don't have to worry about any warping of the bed carriage itself. I don't think there'll be too much of an issue of like heat transfer coming from the bed through the air gap and actually melting the bed carriage itself. It's a pretty small bed. It's only 120 mil. So I should be okay, I'm hoping. But I'm not super concerned. If it does be, like, again, this printer is not going to be a workhorse printer. This is probably just going to get built. I'll use it for a few videos, and then it's probably just going to sit. Whenever I need, like, to show something on an old printer, I'll use it. Because, I love me some ABS fumes. What's the deal with the Galileo? Is that a top secret Voron extruder? No, it is not a top secret thing. Plans are out there if you want to build one, I believe. They're on the GitHub. It's community guy designed it. It's not the main extruder. It's not an afterburner or a Mobius. So it's not, the default printer or the default extruder, but it is an option. It's a little bit more complex. It's a you kind of need to buy stuff for it. It uses like MJF parts or whatever. You can DIY it, but you need good equipment to make it, basically, from what I've seen. It's just another option. So, if you want to build one, go ahead. It's a good design, but it's not the standard design. It's just an option. I gotta clear out all the plastic because these holes weren't exactly sized for heat sets. So, got a little bit of refuse. There we go. I'm building an orbiter, which I think is an offshoot of the Galileo. Yeah, the orbiter, they're all based kind of on a design that was originally on Thingiverse, I believe. Like, they're not all exact copies of each other. They're just kind of inspired by. Because think about it, a 3D printer, they're all basically the same. You know, all i3s are pretty much the same. They just have slightly different ways of doing it. Ooh, that one's still hot. There we go. So again, this guy is all spare parts for me. So in that case, I'm going with 100. Probably going to do. I have 150 and 200 watt 12 volt power supplies kicking around. I'm going to try the 150 watt. If that doesn't have enough juice, I'll use the 200 watt. It should be, because it's a 60 watt bed, and I think I have a 30 watt heater in it. So that's 90 watts plus, you know, some pretty small NEMA 17s, some fans, and a Raspberry Pi. It should be okay at 150 watts. I mean, we spec for the DC version of the V0. We spec 160 watt power brick, and this is kind of the same power usage, so it should be roughly the same. Hopefully. Okay, so I went overboard and ordered a 1/2-inch steel plate for the bottom for printer vibration dampening. Have it powder coated. Okay, so you should be okay at 1/2 inch, but I kind of had the same idea when I built this guy way back in the day, where my bottom panel on my other ones, it's Coroplast, right? This one's ABS, but on 26 here, my bottom panel is actually an aluminum sheet. Okay, so I think it's an 1/8 inch aluminum sheet, so it's not cast or anything fancy like that. I did that because I could mount holes to it, so I have like stuff actually mounted to it, because back in the day there was no spec for layout for where we mounted stuff, so I just figured, I'll just get a metal plate and mount everything to the metal plate, because I could just drill holes in it and put it wherever, right? You know, I'm a tool and mold maker, so I just mount shit to metal, drill holes. So anyways, that's good and all. Let me get this out. Flex plate. The only downside with having a metal plate as your bottom plate here is, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but it can resonate. Let me take out the noise canceling headphones so you can hear when my Zed's moving. A lot of that noise is just from this bottom panel resonating, because it's just unsupported aluminum and it's vibrating. Now, I could sound dampen it, but I kind of really just don't care, because my printer room, when the printers are running, I'm usually not in here, and it's in the basement with the door closed. So the thing is, though, 1/2 inch is bloody thick, so I don't think you'll have an issue there. Is there a good moment to ask you about my PA configuration? Blind Joe, if you're talking about pressure advance, I have a video on my channel on how to properly tune your pressure advance, for a clipper at least. Is there a reason you're going with the... Oh, okay, that's somebody else. 55 watching, please hit... Yes, please like, subscribe, YouTube algorithm stuff. I have a Twitter now because it's 2005 and I'm hip and with it. So at 3DP Nero, if you want to follow me on Twitter. I set it up so people don't have to ping me on Discord to ask when I'm streaming because I got that a lot. So I figured I'll set up a Twitter and then you can just, you know, if I'm streaming or not streaming on Saturday night, I'll tweet about it. What hot end am I going to use? This has a V6. So this, well, it's a Triangle Labs V6. It's kind of hard to see, but it's the gold one because gold. Okay, so now we got to mount the bed. So we're going to need some springs, obviously. And I probably will change this in the future, but the way the bed is laid out is it has the connector that always dies on everyone. Because these have a habit of coming off, I guess. I've never actually had a bed that had this style of connector. They've always been soldered on. So what do I got? I got heat, 12 volt. So I'm assuming these two big fatty ones are for the bed itself. And then what else do I have? Because I have 3 wires here. I got a signal, a ground, a signal, a 5 volt, and a ground. So I'm assuming... Oh, there's a little LED. So where is... So signal and ground are for the thermocouple. Or the thermistor, I bet. That would make sense, right? I don't like the wiring they used here, but whatever. I don't know. However, in the stream before Nero decides he does like the connector to solders it. Probably really soon. The only thing I like about it right now is I'm hooking it up and I can just, you know, get it out of the way. So, I need a screwdriver because this is a PCB bed. And it's really thin. So, for the PCB bed, it's actually kind of nice because this actually has the aluminum sheet separate from the PCB. So it's kind of not like the Prusa bed, like the Mark 52 bed on the switch wire, where you just put the mag plate right on top. This has an aluminum plate on top of it. So I'm going to stick my magnet to the aluminum plate and then have my flex plate on top of that, which I think is a better solution than just PCB. Is that PCB bed flat at all or warped? I have no clue. I'm hoping the aluminum's good because think about it. We have a PCB bed and then I have a 1/8 inch thick aluminum plate and then I'm going to have a magnet and then I'm going to have a flex plate on top of that and then it's going to be a layer of adhesive, then PEI. So we're gonna stack some tolerances up here. But I'm hoping, you know, it's only 180 millimeters, or correction, it's only 120 millimeters. So I'm hoping it doesn't really, you know, have that too much of a variance, and I could just correct it out by manually leveling it. Because that's a really thin bed. Hot so. And then this is the bed. Now, yeah. So one reason this might not even sit flat is good old China hasn't deburred this at all. So I'm just going to take a second here. You just run a stone over it because there's definitely burrs in here. I wish I had, you know, I have a proper hard stone at work, but clean it off. PA1 site. Wait, let's see here. PA1 site of the corner is okay, perfectly flat, but on it's too much plastic. Nothing works. I can't. Wait. I'm sorry, Blind Joe. I'm not 100% sure. What you're at. Are you talking about your bed leveling or your pressure advance settings? Now, if I was going super crazy about this, I would probably actually put down a layer of thermal compound between these two. I wouldn't go crazy and use the like the high temperature gasket sealant that we use, but I probably would actually, you know, putting heat sink compound probably actually would help. You know, if you had, you know, some, I don't know, crown knot or whatever, probably would help, but I really don't care. So, but I had to take the stock screws off because we're going to have to use some countersunk screws. So if we go there, that gets us that much. I'm going to need springs. Do I have springs? Yes, I do. So, another thing saved from the Monoprice Select Mini is the springs. I'm going to reuse the springs because they have these nice little caps for each end. So I'm going to use those. Because originally I was actually just going to update my Monoprice Select Mini and use that. But unfortunately, it did. The way it's built uses a lot of they use the LM8 or it's LM6 all around for one. So LM6 UU, and I believe they're all encased in those like fixed fittings. I don't know what they're called, but it's kind of like a pillow block. Or it's like the fixed fitting. So they're pressed in there, and you can't really just take them out easily. So what happened was they all got seized in there, and they're all just mounted to the frame. And the frame of a Monoprice Select Mini is literally just sheet metal. And what ended up happening was they all kind of just got stuck in there, and I couldn't really do anything to fix them. And so I just said screw it and left it. Let me do it this way. Yeah. Let's build it up and then I'll drop it on. Oh, let me catch up with chat here. You guys are going quick tonight. I don't know if any of you troll around AliExpress, but did you see that China has now managed to make a mosquito for $22? So here's the thing with China. They will make whatever you ask them to make. China has no shame when it comes to making stuff, okay? And if they think they can make something for cheaper and make money off of it, they will. Now, the thing is with China is quality control is extremely suspect. So you kind of have to luck out. Now, with a $22 mosquito clone, now that the fact, you know, Triangle Labs makes it and Fadis makes it, Mellow makes it, there's a lot of companies making it now. And what you'll see is a lot of time it's only one or two places that's actually making it, and the rest is just, you know, reselling. So you'll start seeing B stock and C stock. So what'll happen is, you know, they'll make a line of dragons, and the really good ones, they go to Fetus. The crappy one, or the not great ones, but the ones that still work fine, those go to Triangle Labs. And then the crappy ones, they go to whoever, right? Or something like that. So you'll start seeing all kinds of, not fly by night, but just, you know, manufacturers trying to get rid of the stock they have. Which, you know, you can't really blame them. Now, a $22 mosquito clone, honestly, I'd rather have a $22 dragon clone at that point, because a dragon is probably a little bit more forgiving than a mosquito when it comes to machining tolerances for the most part. Plus, you don't got to deal with the putty. I hate the putty. I'm sorry. Or not the putty. The you know what I'm talking about. Boron nitride paste. Yeah, that stuff. I just hate dealing with that. Because if you have to swap anything, you got to take it all apart, clean it all out. Could be a mess. Like, I know it works. I know why they do it. It makes perfect mechanical sense. But, it just kind of adds another layer. There we go. There we go. So we have ourselves. Well, that's rubbing, but whatever. He has a bed on our printer. So there we go. So now it's mounted. I got heat set inserts in the carriage. They screw into that. They got these washers on there, so hopefully that'll keep the springs from heating up and transferring the heat, like, and digging into here. So their tension should be okay. There should be enough of an air gap in here. So now, kind of got to figure out. I'm hoping I'm not breaking any of these wires constantly flipping this thing around. Let's see here. I have 600 of the little compound. Okay, that stuff isn't the same as... Ah, crap, where did I put it? So that stuff's not the same as boron nitride paste. That stuff is basically thermal compound, which is, you know, the same stuff that you put on your CPU heatsink. The stuff you want to use... Where the hell did I put it? It's right in front of me, but I can't see it. It's called boron nitride paste. It's actually high temperature, and it solidifies and hardens. It actually holds your heater cartridge in a mosquito's heat block. I gotta clean up my desk here. It's getting a bit of a mess. I know I have it somewhere, but whatever. I'll find it later. And then this would mount on there. So Yeah, let's mount the magnet, because why not? Let's do the magnet on the bed improperly because it's so small. Yeah, I tried the Mellow Mosquito Hunka Junkie. Honestly, here's the thing. Some people have used the Mellow one and have had issues with it, and some have used it, and it's been perfectly fine. Some people have used other knockoff brand ones and have been fine, and some haven't. But we know the Triangle Lab Dragons are good. I know they had a few kinks with the first run, but pretty much the V2 revision of it, I don't think anyone's had a single problem with them yet. At least I've never heard of anyone having a problem with it yet. So I'd rather recommend something that we know works than something that, oh, it's a little bit cheaper, but you might have an issue. Because not only is it, your money you're wasting if you have an issue, it's your time. Because you got to order from China, you got to wait for it to show up, you got to build with it, and then if you have an issue with it, well, you got to diagnose the issue. Can you fix it? No. Okay, ship it back, or try and get a refund. Oh, you're not going to get a refund. Buy a new one. Wait for that to show up. So. And yes, I'm putting the magnet on now. I will put weight on it overnight. This isn't going to get heated up. I'm just putting the magnet on so I know roughly what I have for Z height and all that. There we go. Good old flex plate. So let's see what we got for Z. I do want to buy Dragon at one point. I might just buy one piece per... Honestly, just don't buy one piece per month. Just buy it all at once. Because it's just better just to buy it all at once. Have you ever seen a heater cartridge with wires connected at 90 degrees or something else to help with? No, unfortunately not. It's the way it's made. It's because it's basically a resistor, and you put power through it, and the resistor gets hot. Okay, so it's in that metal tube. It's filled with ceramic paste, which is boron nitride, I think, or some other rough analog of clay of some sort. And then it's just two solid wires that come out of it. That's why you see on heater cartridges, which I might have one kicking around somewhere. Yeah. So when you look at a heater cartridge, okay, which one is this? 24 volt, 40 watt. So the wires that come out, I know it's going to be hard to see because this camera has crap autofocus, but the wires that come out are solid core wires, okay? And then when they come out, the reason you have this sleeving usually here is because they crimp on the stranded wire right after that. Because this wire can bend, and you have, forgiveness. These wires, okay, if you take them and bend them too many times, you're trying to get that orientation right, you're constantly bending it, you're going to work hard in the wires, and before you know it, they're going to break. Oh, and there you go, they're broke. And at that point, it's garbage, okay? So you can bend them to 90 degrees right away, but don't go crazy bending them again and again and again, because you will work harden them and they will break. And even if they don't break, when you keep work hardening them, you make a stress point, and eventually, if the stress point is too damaged, when you pass current through that over time, it'll weaken and eventually break. So, but this is why you have that bulge that's kind of a pain to bend, because you have to run your wires in a way, because you got this stiff portion here where it goes from the solid core wire to the stranded wire. So that was a dead cartridge, by the way, already. I knew that one didn't work. I had issues with it. Anyone know what the chamber temp is required to print nylon carbon? Should I design my printer to have the motors, electronics outside of the chamber? So everyone will freak out because whoever it has patents on motors in the enclosure. If you're not selling it, I don't think they're going to worry about it. Okay, I got about 105 millimeters of Z, so I'll say 100 for safe, which is fine. I've got a 400 Z printer back here if I need to print anything big. Okay. So I got my Z Endstop there. I got a Y one up here, which oh, it can't get that high. Okay, that's why. Yeah, okay, so the Y one works. I gotta remove these brackets. These brackets here actually hit the where the umbilical cord will come out of the back. And I gotta figure out wires. So now wire runs. The funnest part of any printer build, dealing with shitty wires. So I got wires coming out of the back here. Oh, that's going to be annoying because I got them coming out. And I got the motor right there. And I got no way to strain relief them. What am I going to do here? Let's see. I don't like the fact that I don't have any strain relief. Because this is why they break. See, they constantly do this. And they flex those little connectors. And eventually, they will come loose. So I want to fix this. How am I going to do that? You know what? If I have it come out the front, and then immediately bend underneath, I can zip tie it to the frame. Yeah, I can do that. So I can do that, zip tie it to the frame. That'll work. That could work. Won't that risk getting caught in the belt? Well, I have drag chain. I got plenty of drag chain left over. Like, actually, I think I have some 7mm too. Yeah. Yeah, like I have drag chain, okay? So I might just put it in some drag chain. Let me put the SKR over here so I don't break it. So I can just throw it in drag chain and then I don't got to worry about it. So just sleeve it so it doesn't get caught in anything. And then just run it through drag chain. So that it moves freely. There is really not a lot of room. Yeah, vertical offset by the motor. That's one of the things I don't like about the design of this printer. It's kind of like make to go together the one way he designed it, and he didn't design it for a heated bed. Because like you can't do the method how we have it in the yeah, there's nowhere near enough room, so you can't do the method how we have it in the switch wire where the chain goes kind of like on an angle. It has to be vertical. Unless I go underneath. No, I can't because this travels past. I would lose a crap ton of room. So it has to go over. Yeah, I'm going to have to go underneath because I can't have it coming out of the back. If it comes out of the back, it's taking up too much room. Yeah, the design files for this guy are, I have them, but they're just like, I can't remember. I couldn't open them in Fusion, I believe. And now Fusion is gone all wonky with their rights or whatever, so I don't even know if I can edit it anymore. Cutting out the little corners right now. Are you the dev of the Vorons? No, I am not the dev. There is a whole development team. It's headed by, if there was anyone that would be the dev, that would be Russian Cat Food on the Discord. He is the head honcho guy of Voron. But for example, the V1.8 that was designed by Eddie the engineer, and the V0 is by Nemgria on the Discord. So while I am part of the dev team, I am more of a suggestion and tester monkey. I've only designed a few parts and they're nothing special. And I'm the guy who makes the videos. Yes, in the Switchwire release video, that is RCF. It's on his YouTube channel. Okay, the glue picks with the delamination, yeah. Whenever you have delamination, remember, that is plastic warping. So sometimes you can get by with gluing it back together, but the problem is the plastic's still going to want to warp up. So you usually have to fill it with something, like an epoxy or something. But ABS is good, because ABS, you can just acetone weld it. If you want to make a Voron, it really depends. If you have the hardware already for an i3, like an old Prusa or an Ender 3, the Switchwire is a good build because it reuses a lot of stuff you already have. If you're going for a scratch build, it really depends. The V0 is the cheapest one. It's also the most complex of the builds. The V1 is a more traditional Core XY printer, fixed gantry, moving bed. And then the V2 is like the flagship Voron, where it's got all the fancy bells and whistles, where, you know, you're moving all over the place with, you got a where the gantry moves and then it goes up and down and all that fancy stuff. So it really depends what you're looking for in a printer. They're all meant to be fully enclosable right off the bat, so you don't need, none of them need like a lax. You're not going to have to go buy a lax from IKEA to enclose any of these printers, because they're all designed so that you can just slap panels on the outside and they're enclosed. So that is one of the big things with Voron, is it's designed to be enclosed, and a lot of people like that. Did I hit home twice? I hit home twice. Okay, so if we have that come out the front there. Also, this one's louder than the other one because it's got the it's got a duet in it, so it's got 2660s or something like that. Whereas everything else I have is 2209s, which I find are quieter. But tonight we are not building a Voron because I need to change it up a bit. So I am going to try and make the stream a regular thing, and if I'm going to do that, it can't always be Vorons, unfortunately, because while I do like Vorons, I've already got 4 of them functional and built. The V0 I already had to tear apart to do the build for it, so I had to tear apart a functional printer to do a video on building it. I don't have a V1. And at this time, I don't really have plans to build a V1 because I really don't need it. I don't print enough as is to justify the 4 printers I have already. I'm not going to get rid of them. I like them, but I am kind of overkill on printers at the moment. I don't know where. Oh yeah, I don't know where you can buy this stuff. I get it from work, but this is high temperature sleeving. This is actually fiberglass insulation for wires that run on injection mold manifolds. So wires that are in a manifold, so you know your hot end is one little block that's at the temperature of melting ABS. So imagine, you know, something 4 by 8 feet of metal that melts ABS, and this is what they put the wires in to protect them. So I snagged some of this stuff a while back, and it's really good for I use it for sleeving any wires that run by anything super hot. The only problem is it is fiberglass, so if you're cutting it a lot, your hands are going to get itchy. Go crazy and build a 5-axis. So the problem with 5-axis is it's at this point it's pretty much a trade show thing. I don't think there's any slicers that natively support it, for one. And every time I've seen it used is trade show. So yes, it would be nice to have 5-axis because you would be able to do a lot of stuff that you can't do with traditional FDM methods. Like you would be able to print instead of you wouldn't need to worry about overhangs because you could just build up and out. Okay, you would be able to do all kinds of funky stuff. Trying to get, you know, a tilted nozzle, like hot end assembly though, down to a bed would be a little interesting. But it could be done if you're smart enough to design something. Tape. Do I have tape? But yeah, and remember, I'm not a good designer. Which extruder is on top of your switch wire? Those are jet packs. 2 of them. Because it's a dual extrusion printer. It just has a Y splitter, nothing fancy. I know I have blue tape somewhere. Yeah, whatever. And instead of 5-axis, it would be better, honestly, to probably have the bed move. So you would still have you would have a 3-axis head, and then you would just have the bed be able to pivot in either, what's it called? It's a Y move or a C move? I can't remember the actual mechanical term. but you basically have the bed do the other move. That way your nozzle, you can have a more rigid nozzle. Or you can just, buy a Makino or a Haas 5-axis machine and just slap a V6 to it if you want to go that way. There's a few different ways of doing it. Yes, jetpacks go burr. I'm going to have to swap them out, though, apparently. Because they're no longer the cool thing. Okay, now I got to figure out how to feed this through. So you're going to come out, and you're going to go through here. Wait, why am I trying to do this by hand? I got tweezers. There we go. Okay, so yeah, see that rubs there. I don't like that. If I have that come across there, it's hitting the the Y idler. I don't like the Y idler there. I don't like that there. So let's see, where else can I run these wires? If I come out the other way, maybe? Okay, I'm really leaning towards Voron V2, but just starting with printing and wanting to build a printer, is there any other brand you would consider? Honestly, okay, so if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I've never had a 3D printer before, I want to melt some plastic and see if I like it, go buy an Ender 3. They're dirt cheap. They're decently okay. You're not going to be able to get a better printer for a cheaper price. And you can do pretty much anything on it with a few upgrades, okay? That is my, hey, I've never touched a printer before and I want to build a printer. Now, hey, I have some experience. I have an Ender 3. I have another entry-level printer. I want to do something fun. I'm going to say, build Voron because that's all I've had. But, in terms of other good designs out there, if you want to stay with DIY, build yourself, rail cores, a lot of people like the rail core. I would consider it a comparable design to Voron in terms of quality. Like it's another good printer. There's nothing wrong with it. There are a lot out there right now in terms of decent rep wrap styles. BLV. There's a lot of different styles out there right now. I have a little hole here. I'm trying to feed this through. Go the other way. Go the other way. Buying genuine Highwind, do not. So here's the thing. Are Highwinds better than Chaiwin? And by Chaiwin, I mean just cheap Chinese rails. Yes, they are better. However, you have to remember we are melting plastic out of glorified hot glue guns on a cheap CNC machine, okay? So, yes, they are better statistically and, in every, when you crunch the numbers, a Highwind rail is better than a Chinese linear rail. However, is it worth spending, the whole price of the printer with Chinese rails in just, genuine Highwind rails? Performance per cost is not worth it though. If you want to say that, you're gonna spend a heck of a lot more for negligible performance increase, even if it barely noticeable increase. All my printers run Chinese rails. Okay, so I have 7, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 rails from China right now in printers. I've only had one bad one come in, and that was like 2 years ago, my first batch of V2 rails. If you're worried about a bad one, just buy an extra. And other than that, I've never had an issue. So I just honestly, I see no point in spending the money on Highwinds. Because if you go look, go join the Discord. If you're not already a member of the Voron Discord, go to vorondesign.com community, join the Discord. And then in the Discord, there's a whole section of pictures of stuff people have printed on Vorons. And you can take a look and see at everything that people have printed. And very few, if any of them, were printed on a Voron with Highwind rails. And I just see it as a waste of money. There's better things you can put your money into. The how to print how to build a Mobius. Yes, that's an old video. I have videos on how to run belts through the V2.0 Z drive. But yeah, just get decent rails. Make sure they're clean. Grease them up, and you're good to go. Remember, there's like 4 Z rails. You have 2 Y rails. The rail that matters the most is your X rail for the most part. Okay. Voron has the best looks. So the reason I built a Voron way back in the day, okay, was my wife bought me a Monoprice Select Mini for Christmas. And I was a naughty boy and I opened it up before Christmas. But within I want to say 2 months of getting it, I had pretty much outgrown it. It was a really good printer. For its size, it was really good, but 120 millimeters cubed ain't much. If that's all you want and you want a small printer, that's fine, but I outgrew it quick. I live in Canada, so cheap Enders aren't really a thing up here, or not often. And this was before the Ender 3 was really the big thing. So the Monoprice Select Mini was the good cheap printer. But basically I outgrew it, and I was looking to build something, and if you go to the reddit.com/reprap, and you go looking in there, you can find a picture. So go to the Reddit reprap, search top posts all time, and near the top you'll see a picture that Russian Cat Food posted of the early V1.0, and that thing looked clean, and I decided I was going to build a Voron after seeing that. So I think I'm not a huge fan of the rail core. It's 1515 all over, and without the side panel, it's wibbly wobbly. Yeah, noodles can be a thing. People give us crap for having 2020, and that's noodly. But honestly, as long as you build your frame, assemble it correctly, it's stiff enough for a 3D printer. And that's another thing with Railcore. So one of the big things with Voron is all Vorons can be built at home with common parts. You need a basic soldering iron. You need, a basic wire stripper, basic Allen keys. You can buy $3 Allen keys off AliExpress and build your whole printer. It's meant to be a printer you build in your garden shed with garden tools. It's rocket ships with garden tools. It's not meant to require machined parts. That's one of the things with Railcore that I'm kind of against. Now, yes, you can print all their parts, but pretty much everyone goes with machine parts for kind of reasons. But personally, I'm a big fan of being able to, hey, if you want to build this, you could just buy a few tools. The most expensive tool most people buy is the crimper, and that's because, a good crimper is really nice, don't get me wrong. Okay, so we have this now. So the wires come out They're zip tied there. They're not hitting anything. So we're good there on motion. Now the thing is, I can put them in a drag chain, but I don't have any way to attach the drag chain. How would I do this? So I'm going to have to redo the feet on this printer, I think. Actually, no, because the feet are structural. I forgot about that. You know what? For now, I'm just going to sleeve these, and I'm just going to sleeve them, and then I'll just clip them in there somehow. Spiral wrap. I know I have some somewhere. Yep, I'm pulling from the wrong side of the bag. Again, this printer isn't going to have 1,000,000 hours on it. It's not going to be like my V2 where I got 15,000 hours on it. So, I'm not going to say I'm going to cut corners on it, but some things that I would be concerned about, you know, like wire wear after, you know, a few hundred hours, I probably won't look at too closely, at least right now. Because this thing has been sitting on a shelf for like 8 months. And mostly I just want to get it finished. And I'm sleeving the wires up just for cosmetics. I want to sleeve them so they don't, you know, run on top of each other. This thing is not going to hit blistering speeds too. I'll probably just use a Monoprice Select Mini profile with it. Oh, chat stalled out. Let me see here. I need to build a printer that can do 250 by 400 by 100. I'm planning on doing 250 by 500 by 230 so I can use two 250 by 250 heat beds. If you're going to go anything above, okay, so anything above 350 in an axis, don't go Core XY, okay? Core XY relies on belts for all your movement, and your belts are absurdly long on a Core XY compared to other, you know, motion design printer or motion options for 3D printers. So if you are going to go super big, don't go Core XY, okay? Because you're going to have an absolute pain keeping your belts tensioned, and you're going to have an absolute pain just keeping everything consistent, okay? Ask anyone who has a big Core XY, and belt issues are like their biggest problem. So honestly, with belts, unless you absolutely need to go super big on a Core XY, which don't go big on a Core XY. Like, just don't. That's why we recommend only going up to 350 on a Voron. And really that holds true to pretty much all Core XY printers. I think we're just the only group that actually flat out states don't go super big. Because you're going to lose the advantage of Core XY is it's fast, okay? Core XY is one of the faster motion systems for 3D printers. And if you go super big, you lose the advantage of Core XY. So why bother going Core XY? You know? Go with a motion system, like a Cartesian. You know, you could still do a square frame printer, you know, but just go Cartesian or something. have anything to clamp this in place. Because that'll be there. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. I don't have anything to hold it in place, so let me see here. No, that ain't gonna work. Our old friend the zip tie will help us. Okay, for some reason Spotify thinks I want to listen to Sea Shanty Remix #2 or something. It's like some synthwave version of Sea Shanty for anyone who ever played RuneScape back in the day. Not complaining. Cartesian with moving gantry rather than build plate. Yeah, honestly, at that size, like... Yeah. Good old zip ties. Okay. And then that'll probably come out there. Okay. So... So the only problem I'm going to run into here is now that's going to hit the gantry. Yep, that's going to rub. So, but I can fix that later. Go. Okay, that's good enough for now. Okay, so I gotta take the screen off because when I was originally building this, it was gonna run Marlin. Just so, you know, for that maximum, you know, cheap printer vibe, run Marlin. But, you know what? I'm not gonna subject myself to that. So, fortunately, the screen is not supported by Clipper. So, off it comes. We're going headless, because that's the cool way to run your printer now. And we got our SKR here. So I'm going to have to put that, attach that there. So one little conundrum I'm going to run into here is on the SKR Mini 1.2, this is meant as a drop-in board for the Ender 3. And the Ender 3 only has one Z lead screw. Whereas this crapo cheapo Filippo printer has two. Well, I only have 4 hookups and only one of them is for Z. So I'm going to have to split that. Now I'm pretty sure it's just a parallel connection. So I might actually get fancy here and make a little board. So we'll see. M3s. So I might actually, because I have JST connectors. I got a whole box of JST connectors. So I might actually just solder up a little breakout header, I think. What build plate is that? It's just it's literally like a $12, I think it's from BIQU on AliExpress. It's just a $12 120 by 120 12 volt. I think they make a 24 volt too. I know somebody has used this bed for a V0. So it's not, you know, it is a functional item. Keep wanting to rebuild my Delta. That's one style of printer I don't have. And I kind of want one just to have one. But I don't think I would ever actually need a Delta. I don't need half the printers I have, you know. I just like building them. One day I'll probably get back into PIF or something where I actually need the amount of printers I have. Okay, that I don't like. That one ain't getting a screw because that screw is way too close to a solder point. Okay, and then this board, I think we're going to mount on the back here. Oh, god damn it. When you accidentally forget you had support settings on and you print something. Why did I have support settings on? Well, these holes for M5 screws came out super clean, I will say. Like, super clean. Because you need support. I love the fact that all Voron parts are designed to not need support when you print them. And any that do, because I think there is one, or we might have got rid of it, the support was built right into the part, so you didn't really need to worry about it. M5. Oh man. China profile. Masumi profile has spoiled me because Masumi 2020 has that little groove down the middle of the channel. So if you have, you know, T-nuts that have the ball bearing in it, they snap into place and they hold their position. Whereas these cheapo ones do not. So your T-nuts have a habit of going on little adventures sometimes. Okay, these are too small. I need 10s. And 5. 10. And the SKR mount I'm using is just the SKR Mini E3 mount from the V2 folder. This is why reinvent the wheel. Okay. So I'm probably going to resolder because these are just temporary wires I soldered on for these end stops here, and they're kind of crappy solder joints. Whoa, okay, chat's going fast tonight. Holy crap. Delta Dance, what to do? Use the E3 2.0 board. Kilobit, I do have one, and I'm using it in V0, which only has one Z, but it is a better board. It fixes some issues this board had. The thing is, I don't want to spend $40 for one extra thing when I could just solder up a quick splitter. Because they do sell a splitter for this, and all it is just a parallel breakout board. So, is it parallel or... Yeah, it's parallel, yeah. So I'm just going to wire them up in parallel. So I'm just going to quickly solder up a little breakout board, cut it out, and either just have it flap it in the wind or whatever. But this is how we're going to mount our board. It's just going to sit off the side here. Because we are going for maximum old school rep, where our wires are just going to be free balling in the wind. You know, unlike my Vorons where you can't even see exposed wires, this thing's going to have wires everywhere. Yeah, one part of the V0 has built-in support. Make sure you take it off. Building in my supports on my part designs, auto-generated supports. Correct. Auto-generated supports, you can't rely on them. I know we had a few parts in the V2.4 and V0 that had built-in support, and it's very minimal, and we put a big X on it to break it off. But yeah, it's better to design with supports in mind. That's one of the problems with Thingiverse printers that I see a lot of, is you'll have people design something or anything on Thingiverse, any mechanical design. They'll design it in a way that, oh yeah, it works perfectly functional once you actually have it in your hand, but it's not really designed for FDM. And even this printer, there are parts of the tool head that have massive support where you could have easily designed this tool head to not require support at all. But the way it's designed, you have to print with support. I know we've run into that issue with the Voron design with all the Vorons, but none of the Voron parts they're all designed supportless essentially. Yeah, we don't need no stinking wire management. Okay, so here. The one thing I'm actually kind of disappointed about is I was going to mount my power supply underneath here. The problem is I really actually don't have a lot of room to mount it. Like it's a tight fit under here. So my power supply, now luckily I only need to run 2 wires because I'm probably going to get a Pi Zero simply for the fact that with a Pi Zero I can power it off of the SKR. So that means I'm only going to have to run 2 wires to the printer. So I'm probably just going to have an actual printed housing on this with the plug and then just run 2 wires with a quick connect to the printer and just, have the power supply sit next to it, I guess. That's probably what I'll end up doing. But in the meantime, I think it's finally time we actually start wiring this guy up. So let's make our little breakout board here first. So where did I put that little breakout board? Ah, there we go. So for the record, I'm not a fan of JST fittings. I'm more of a Molex KK fan. But this guy already uses JST, so why change it? So what I'm thinking, oh my god, the colors on this camera are horrendous. That's one thing that kind of sucks about webcams, is I can't, a little bit better. Every time you reboot or turn off your computer, all your settings for like color correction, they go out the window. So if I take 3 of these and solder them on, and then just solder them up in parallel, I can run these 2 to say the motors, and then this one I can connect to the board, and then I'll just solder across the back here, and then cut it out. Yeah, we'll do that. So we will make our little board here. Just put some random ones in here just to keep this from moving while I'm soldering. There we go. Just make a live stream on replacing the JST. Okay. I could show you guys how to, you basically just need a solder sucker. You just, remove the solder from the pin, and then you could just replace, because the whole spacing between DuPont connectors and JST and Molex KK is 2.54 millimeters, I believe it is. So the whole spacing is the same across all of them. And a lot of the times there's enough room on the boards. I know people that have replaced all their JST connectors on their SKRs with Molex KK. It is a better connector. It's stronger. There's more meat and potatoes to the actual part where it clicks in. The JST connector is a very small connector. There's bigger prongs. There's more room to crimp. It's a much better connector personally. Okay, where's my power supply? I need a power cable. There we go. And for those that don't know, my soldering iron of choice is a TS100. Get a TS100, buy a cheap 24 volt power supply, like 300 watt one or whatever off Amazon. Print a connector, print some like XT60 holders. And use proper wire. No, that ain't it. Where's my good wire? There it is. Okay, 250 and 2.54. They're close enough. Like, I've replaced a few, and there's no issue. Okay, where are these? They're there. Okay, so I don't know if you guys want to watch. There we go. So the problem is this isn't a proto board. Now a true proto board, you would be able to like scratch off, I think it is. But this isn't a proto board, so I'm actually going to have to, how am I going to do this? See if I can just blob solder it. And the problem is, for those that don't know, actually I might be able to scrape the PCB. Let me see, can I scrape it? The green on a PCB or whatever color is called a mask. Solder doesn't stick to it. So. Yeah, you could reuse the same power supply for like 20. So the TS100 works better on the higher voltage. So up to 24 volt, the better. Oh yeah, this roll of solder, I've had this for like 2 years and I've barely made a dent in it. Let's see, I should be able to just scrape away the mask, I think. Otherwise, I'll just get wire. Yeah, I'll just get wire. I should have did that before. Let's see if I can blob solder across it. Yeah, it doesn't want to. Doesn't want to. So I think I have some wire. That ain't gonna work. I think this might be a little too high gauge, I believe. Yeah, just a little bit too high gauge. And for the record, all I've really ever soldered is just wire to wire. And I've never tried to do this before, so yeah, I can't really just... I wish I had a proper proto board. Because on a proper proto board, you would just scratch it and you'd be able to... there is no mask on a proper proto board. You know what? I'm just going to redo it. I'm going to scratch it off. Let's see here. No, that ain't going to work. That's going to be too much of a pain in the ass. I have single core wire somewhere. I got to have some. Gotta have some single strand wire somewhere. I don't think I do. Heh. Print with solder. Yeah, don't put solder in your 3D printer hot end. Are any of these single core? No. Nope. No, that's stranded. Oh no, that is cord. Okay. Yep. Yeah, no, that is stranded, but I'll just spin it up. Okay. See if this works. Okay, that kind of worked. Let's see here. Okay, that works. Solder on this one. So what I'll do is I'll solder these up, and then I'm just going to cover the whole thing with the Kapton tape. That should provide enough protection. There we go. And I will be doing a continuity test to make sure I did not short these out. Because that's really something you don't want. Is a Voron 2.4 really a Core XY? Or it's a Core XY. Core XYZ is its own thing, and if you look it up, you can actually see pictures of it. And Core XYZ is kind of a complicated, weird mess. So the term that we've always kind of used to describe the Voron V2.4 is a flying gantry Core XY. Yeah, so it's not Core XYZ because the gantry is independent. One more. Use is that washer to keep from burning my house down? Yes, it's a very good washer. And this is why you don't print with PLA, anything that's close to temperature. Because this thing is held up for quite a while, because there's all the heat's down here in the tip. So while down here is warm, you wouldn't be able to do that if it was like the fact that I can even touch it. I'm not worried about melting the ABS. There we go. Tin all the wires. Okay. So we didn't melt any of our connectors, so that is good. And we have it connected across there. Let's get the multimeter. That one's coming. My battery dead. There we go. Okay. There we go. So as you can see, no short, because if it was shorting, no shorts. So we are good. Looking at a little PCB. I know all the guys in the Voron. Let me check Discord, because I know the guys in the Voron Discord are probably like, "What the hell are you doing?" No, nobody's giving me shit about it. We have a habit of designing so many PCBs. Okay. So now I gotta cut this out. Hopefully I don't break it. Let's see here. Voron V1 and V0 have the bed moving up, down, the V2 gantry. Yep. Okay, let me cut way out here, make sure this thing actually cuts clean. Yeah, good enough. And there we go. We have our little custom hookup thing. Now, me being the genius that I am, I probably should have left some meat on there so I could mount it to something. But that's what double-sided tape is for. So because we have exposed wires on the back, our friend Kapton tape is going to protect us from shorting stuff out. because Kapton tape is awesome. Wait, what's this i3 stuff? This is what happens when you have a bunch of spare parts kicking around and you want to build a printer out of them. Is you go on Thingiverse and you look for the simplest i3 that they have on there. It's called the bonsai. i3 Mendel. You gotta remember, terms for 3D printing is completely screwed. Like, nobody has decided what the proper term for anything is. Because technically they're mostly all Cartesian, but only i3 Mendel style is Cartesian, apparently. But, yeah. There we go. So I could have gone on AliExpress, spent $5 and waited 6 weeks for this to show up. But instead, we have it right now. Okay, let's get wiring. The most funnest part of any printer build. And we are up to 72 people. Welcome everyone. Hope you're all enjoying your nights. Thank you for keeping me company while I faff about building 3D printers. I'm trying not to drop containers of screws everywhere. Any way to prevent a V2 from putting a dot of filament on the center of the bed every time you run print start? Probably your starting script. You can change your starting script depending on your slicer. Usually there's some G code you can mess with at the beginning of a print, and that's probably what you're going to want to look for. Because like for mine, how it works is I have mine set when I heat it up, I run a macro, so it moves to what I like to call the ready position, which is smack dab in the middle, about 10 millimeters off the bed. I do my 10-minute heat soak when the bed heats up, and then what it immediately does is it runs a bead of filament across the front of the printer at like X0, Y0, and just does a little like 10 millimeter or 10 centimeter beam, and that's by prime. So, and then also when I'm done printing, my ending G code retracts the filament like a couple millimeters. So that prevents ooze. So I over retract at the end, so I have to prime more at the beginning, but that prevents it from oozing during heat up. At least that's what I do. Okay, so this is going to be a pain to wire. So let's start with our motors. So these motors are absolutely horrendous. These are the crappy little i3 motors, or the motors from my, let me move this all the way up, from my Monoprice Select Mini. Oh, you're getting caught. There we go. There we go. Spin them the same way. Actually, uh-oh. and they use this weird little proprietary connector. So I have to use these stupid wires that are super thin, because if I lose it, I'm screwed. Because these are like really crappy. My print start does bed heat up and heat soak the heat nozzle to 180 to soften filament, but not news. Then home, then heat, prime, then print. And it still does like a little blob in the middle. I'm not too sure. I would have to see like your whole slicer profile and everything. But there's something telling it to go there to do that, essentially. Any way to prevent... should I be awake at nearly 3 a.m. watching a Canadian man build a printer from spare parts? Probably not, but it's not stopping me. Well, it's only 10 o'clock here, so that's not too bad. So I'm assuming you're of the British or European type. Nobody needs to sleep anyways. Yeah, S3D, I've never used S3D, so I'm not sure how that one starts up. How much do you reckon Tallboy weigh? Well, this is a 250, and it weighs about 40 pounds. Tallboy is 330 by 330 by 400. Now, Zed honestly doesn't really add much. It's only got a 12-inch bed, so a 300 bed in it, and the bed's only 1/4 inch thick, not 5/16. So it probably weighs, probably 50 pounds. Actually, let me do the hot end. Let me figure out this hot end first. So the fun thing is, if you've watched my streams when I built V2s and the V0, I always say, keep track of your wires and what goes where, because it'll make everything easier. Yeah, I did not do that for this guy. I know this is my hot end wire because it's got the funky colors and it's thicker. I know this is a motor wire. That's a thermistor. But I don't know which fan is which, but it's not that big of a deal. So that ain't too bad, but problem is they're way too short, so we're gonna have to solder on some extensions here. So let's do that right now. And this is just going to be a straight up old school umbilical. We are not going fancy at all with the wiring in this guy. I'm going to put my wire away, or my soldering iron away. Good old Microfits. See, I would use Microfits, but I really have no desire to, I'm running kind of low on them. I bought like way too, I put it this way, I bought them all back when I was building my V2 originally, and I've had enough to rebuild the V2 a few times, build Tallboy, build Switchwire, build V0, and V2 26 here has been every version of the V2. And I've done a few rewirings along the way, and I've never saved any of them. So unfortunately, I'm actually starting to run a little bit low, so I don't want to quote unquote waste them, but I gotta find my wiring. Like I'm literally going, from here to here. It's like 6 inches, so I'm not gonna put a microfit on. If I had more butt connectors, I would just use a butt connector. But the ones I have are for like bigger wire, so I don't want to waste them. Ah, there we go. PVC wire. Why not? No, my tunes have stopped. So, yeah, let's go about that much wire. Why not? We're totally eyeballing this. Get some music back. Oh, wow. Okay, everyone's signing up for my... Thank you all. I think I'm near 60 followers on Twitch already, which for a week is pretty good, I guess. I don't know. I don't Twitch or tweet or whatever it's called. So, I don't know if that's good, but thank you all. Again, this isn't my job. I do this for fun, which I'm actually kind of grateful for, because now I don't need to play with the YouTube metrics and, you know, feed the algorithm beast. I've decided I'm going to build a V2.4. Last thing I need to decide is the size. If you don't know the size, build a 300. Because a 300 is a common size with 3D printers, 300 millimeters. So you're going to be able to find parts for it. And by parts, I mean the bed. The bed is the most expensive single component, really, for the most part. So if you go with 300, you're going to be able to find a bed easier. You're going to find the beds aren't as expensive as the 350 beds. You're going to find PEI cheaper. It's just cheaper to build a 300 than a 350 by quite a lot. And tuning wise, it's going to be easier to tune a 300 than a 350. They all perform great. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're all still spec sizes for a reason. But the 300 is probably the best size to go for if you don't know what size, because it's still relatively big. But you won't have to deal with all the troubles you would have to deal with a 350, because 14-inch PI and beds aren't exactly super common. 400 is more common than 350 because Creality makes big printers. Chris Hinkle, $5. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. So, as always, I say it every time somebody donates the first one of the stream. All donations pretty much go right into the stream itself. Pay for equipment for the stream, such as the camera you're watching this on and the Elgato Cam Link that I use. We're all paid for by donation, so thank you all. And then anything extra pretty much just goes to printer parts. Nothing really goes into my pocket. Right now, the next big thing is to actually get a proper computer to stream on. Because for those unaware, I'm using a quite old computer to stream. It works, but it's old. Which really sucks because I got a brand new computer upstairs, but it's upstairs. And I'm not going to lug down my main computer every night or any night I stream. And I'm not going to bring this all upstairs. All the stuff's in the basement for a reason. There we go. So that wire is done. Where's the other one? Solder these guys up. Surprised nobody's yelling at me for not having a fume extractor. Usually that's one of the first things that happens when I start streaming, whenever I'm soldering. Where's your fume extractor? Okay, let's see here. Yeah, PI is freaking expensive on a 350. I'm still not sleeping. I'm going to do a Voron 250, 400, 230. The belt is shorter than a 350. The X-axis will only be If you're going to do 250 by 400 by 230, so 250 by 400, make sure the 400 is the Y, I believe would be the best axis, because then you have two rails supporting it instead of one long X. So it would be longer depth-wise than it is width-wise. That's personally what I would do. Will keep your moving mass down too. Wait until Ryzen 3000 goes on. That's pretty much what I'm waiting on. I would like to get like a 3300X or a 3600 cheap, but like I live in Canada, so electronics never go cheap. They just go out of stock. Like for example, like 250s and even like 1700s, like last gen ones are still relatively pricey up here. So, and our used market is Garbo. So, I'll just keep waiting. Eventually something will go on sale. I'm in no rush. This one works fine. It's just, when I was trying to do CAD on it while streaming, that's when it runs into the issue. Because it's only got a, if anyone wants to look it up on ARC, it's an Xeon X5450 is the CPU, and it's running in a socket 775 or socket 771 motherboard that's modded to run Xeon processors. Because it originally had a Core 2 Duo E8400 in it. And it's got 8 gigs of generic AliExpress China RAM. A cheapo 120 gig SSD. The only thing that's good in here is my 1060. I have my 1060 in here because I upgraded to a 5700X on my main rig. Well, on my gaming rig. A couple months back. And by putting the 1600 that I had in there, which I was going to give to the wife, but more use in here. By putting the 1060 in here, it allows me to use an NVENC encoder, which is NVIDIA's encoder, which allows me to stream pretty much with barely any CPU load. Like right now, I think I'm pulling, according to OBS, 25% CPU load, which is still massive compared to what my desktop does. But my desktop has a 3600 or 3700X in it. But it's good enough, so I can't justify splurging on it. Where did I put that other wire? Oh, there it is. Yeah, NVENC, and it's the old NVENC, but man, it works good enough. The only real advantage with the new NVENC on like is it's just the quality is better for the hardware. Any advice on buying all the parts? If you go to the Voron Design website and go to the builder for whatever printer, if you go on there, we have a sourcing guide that has links to all known good suppliers. Now you can go elsewhere, obviously, but the suppliers that we have there are recommended because dev people have personally purchased from them, and we know the parts are good. So for sourcing your parts, that's where I would recommend starting. The only thing you really have to hunt for, depending on where you live, is the bed. There was a vendor for the U.S., I think Metal Supermarkets or Midwest Steel, I can't remember which one, but their credit card system has been hacked and people have gotten their credit card info stolen for quite a while now from them. So we don't recommend them, obviously. But like, depending on what country you're in, it can either be really easy to get your bed or a complete pain in the butt. Like in Canada, because how stupidly overpriced shipping is for everything. I know it's a pain to find beds. Luckily, I live in a town with a lot of tool shops. So there are metal suppliers in town that I could just go into and be like, yo, hey, I need metal. But whatever you get, because ATP 5 and Mic 6 is just brand name, so you'll probably find it under a different name. Just make sure it's a cast aluminum tooling plate. That is the most important fact for your bed. Don't just get any aluminum plate bed, and don't get steel. Don't get steel. Cast aluminum tooling plate is what you want. Oh, I missed one. Cordy BG 333, €5. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the stream tonight. Anyone use the black CNA? I have not used the black CNA, but all my rails are CNA, and other than the one that I purchased, 2 years ago, that was an issue, and it was a spare one. They've all been good. So I recommend CNA. That's my go-to for cheap China rails. I wholly recommend them. Because that's one of the things with China you have to understand. The price is cheap because you are kind of rolling the ball and doing your own QA. You might not always end up with a good rail or good anything from China. Because it's not like North America where everything gets checked and double checked and whatever and shipped out. Because, if you buy something bad from, your shop down the street, you're going to go get your money back. China really don't care. They just make it and sell it. These are like $10 on Banggood. They're cheap. They're tiny. Buy one. Don't use a lighter. Just, melt your heat shrinking. Please don't. Better than that. Yeah, if your rails are a little grindy. So the problem is with a lot of China rails, they just don't clean them. They just, they comes off the machine. They might, rinse them off. But usually they just slap them together. So they might be a little grindy, because just grit from the factory or shipping gets in them. Because they probably make them all and then they sit there on a shelf and on the factory floor until they get shipped. So, or they don't. They make them all and then they got to cut them. So, who knows, right? It's just easy for them to get damaged, or not damaged, but for grit to get in them. So, anyways, long story short, flush them with isopropyl. And then re-grease them is usually all you really need to do. Okay, so let me tape these together so I don't get them mixed up. I don't know which one's which. So one of these is the part fan, one of them's the hot end fan. Figure it out later. That's just a matter of just swapping them. Unplugging and plugging back in. Because the downside is with this board, the V2 board's better simply for the fact the V2 board has 2 CNC hookups for fans. This one only has one fan that is controllable by default. Now, if I was running a mains bed, you could reuse the bed MOSFET, because you could just use any pin out on the, almost any pin out on the board to control an SSR, because it only needs like 3 volts minimum. But since we're using a DC bed, we need to power the DC bed off of the MOSFET for the bed. I don't have a spare MOSFET, so I only have one CNC fan. So this is going to be one of those guys that the fan just always runs, which is frankly kind of crappy, but there's not much I can do about it. And yes, this thing's going to have like 200 steps per millimeter for Z. These are like, I don't even know what for the... They're 8 mil? 8? I don't know. I don't know what the pitch is on these. It's high. Okay, more cable wrap. Sure. Portasol with the torch tip. Yeah, I just don't like using fire. I've seen too many bad things with fire and people accidentally, you know, torching things that shouldn't be torched. Especially on a 3D printer, because everyone's worried about their 3D printer catching fire, apparently. Because, you know, apparently we should all be running these in concrete bunkers, if you follow anyone's post on our 3DP. But, so, yeah, but, yeah, use an open flame to melt your wires. I don't know. Use a heat gun. It's like enclosures. Whenever anyone asks for enclosure, and I'm just like, oh, just use the box that it comes in. Oh, that's not safe. Your printer might burn down. If my printer might burn down, I'd be worried about the fact my printer might just burn down at any more moment than what it's in. Like, jeez. I've just thrown a towel over my printer before. Print something in ABS. This is back before I had a V2. CNA sells RoboDig. RobotDig I thought was a different vendor. And I've heard not bad things, but I've heard stay away from the black rails on RobotDig. Or RoboDig, or whatever it's called. Okay, so how should I run these wires? Should I just run I'm thinking I should run the X loom, or the X carriage, to the motor, and then add in the Y motor and run that down with the Endstop. I'm thinking I'm going to do that. Because then I only have one coming down. Yeah, that's right, Eddie. Ready, Eddie. Yeah, I think I'm going to run this to here somehow. Yeah, I'll just zip tie it to the motor or something, YOLO. And then... yeah, so I'll do that there. Now you can start to see. But we'll come across there. Camera 2. Camera 2. Pivot. There we go. So we'll have that come across the motor, and then I'll bring in the Y or the X motor and the X Endstop, and I'll run that down. All the wires everywhere. We're going old school. This thing's gonna look like a monstrosity. That's another thing you can tell. There's like no thought. Well, I won't say no thought, but there's not a lot of thought in this thing for wire management for sure. Actually, shit. These might not be long enough to do that. Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to have them come out the back. Screw it. I'm just going to have them go down. Because screw it. That's how we rolling. Oh, because no, then it has to cover this whole back area. You know what? I'm going to have them come up. Yeah, I'm going to have them come up to the top here, because all my hookups are up top here. Yeah, because the board's right here, so I'm going to come up. Yeah, that'll work. So let me drop this. Okay, so that's all the way down. So if I have this come to there, yeah, that'll work. So let me just quickly wrap this up and then zip tie it. is to have X rail be your best. Yeah. So yeah, whenever you're picking your rails, you buy your, buy 7 rails, or if you're like me, buy 8 just to be safe. And then your best rail is your X rail. Well, actually, no, you need to buy 8 now because we have 2 rails on the X. So buy 8 or 9 if you're worried. Your 2 best rails go on the X. Your next 2 best go on the Y. And then the rest go on the Z. Because honestly, I have a crap Z rail on Tallboy because I took it apart and I fucked up putting it back together. And it's missing a few balls and it's not in good condition, but it doesn't matter. It's the Z. They're really, it's just to kind of keep it in position. Like it's not a bad rail. I won't say it's okay. It's not crap. I would never use it on an X, but it works just fine on a Y. Or a Z, sorry. Okay, so YOLO, we're going to go right up here. So that can come across there. Yeah, so if I zip tie that there, for now. You know what, PJ? I wouldn't be surprised if there is a spider. It's that time of the year where they're all like running into the house. And outside the window I have right here, because there's a window in front of me right now, there are a bunch of bushes, and they always like to come in. Okay, so let's see. So that's plenty there. If I come up all the way, make sure I got enough travel room. I should. Oh yeah, we're good there. And then I can just start attaching stuff into there. Perfect. And this is kind of one thing I like the spiral wrapping. You can, once the wires are in it, you can jam it into your extrusion and it just kind of sits in there. So what I might do is do the same thing with the Y or the X wire and just kind of have it loop up into the extrusion and run it across as well. Yeah, I'm going to do that as well. Yeah, so that'll work. So let me get a marker here so I can mark this. Oh, it's in my pocket. So that guy, probably... It's a paint marker. There we go. Pretty much white out in a can. Okay. So for this, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have the wires come up, around, and just come across the top trench. So this way I won't have a mass of wires coming out of the back. And no, I'm not going to have a spool holder mounted on top. I know we did that for switch wire, but that's kind of like one of my big pet peeve things is having wires. Okay, I'm going to have to redo that one. Having rando wires. Or what was I even talking about? Oh, having your spool holder on top. I don't personally like that simply for the fact that that's a lot of mass on top of your printer. And mass on top of your printer likes to shift, and you can have issues with it just moving on you, causing wobbles. If your bed's flapping around, all that extra weight up top can cause your gantry to shake. That's usually more of an issue on printers that have crappy gantries, assemblies. Not so much of a huge issue on the switch wire, but personally I'd rather not have it up top. Oh, heading out. Adam C, gotta go. Take care, man. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know tonight's stream's kind of all over the place, but that's what it's gonna be tonight. More soldering. Yeah, 3030 frame is a big thing, and it's also built like a tank. Like, for those of you that have a switch wire, or at least have the parts to build the frame, it's a beast. Like, it is ungodly solid, like overkill solid for what it is. Okay, so there we go. Okay, more wires. Let me see, what do I have for wires? Yeah, let's go with peach. Sure, why not? Peach wire. Or orange, or whatever color this wire is. I'm using up all the last of the silicone wire I have. I'm trying to get rid of it all. Yeah, and honestly, now that we have like input shaper with clipper, and it can cancel out vibrations automatically, and you can push like stupid high accelerations. The downsides of a bed flinger isn't as much as it used to be. Now here's the thing: people think the bed flinger is a crappy design because you have the bed move. Heck, there's a lot of CNC machines that have the bed move, okay? So having your bed move isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just you got to remember 3D printers are built cheap, and by building cheap, you build light, and when you build light, shit moves. So you can't have the rigidity that you see in like a CNC, but like there are a lot of CNC machines where the gantries move, and it's or the bed moves, and it's a non-issue. And they move a lot faster than a lot of 3D printers, trust me. So having a moving bed in a y-axis isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just you have to compensate for it, which a lot of printers are just too cheap and light to really do. By the way, for Afterburner, is it Capricorn? I would go with just the regular 2mm stuff personally, just for the fact that if you do generate like a bulge or any sort of blob on the end when you go to retract your filament out, it can cause a jamming issue. So I would personally go with 2mm. That's what I use on a lot of my machines, or actually all of my machines. I don't think you'll see much of a big difference performance-wise going with Capricorn in that short of a distance. Capricorn came about because people want, with long Bowden tubes, it makes more of a difference, but it's like 40mm or 25mm or something really short like that. So I don't think you're going to see a massive performance increase, if any. So I wouldn't be too concerned about going with regular. That's what I use. Heck, with switch wire, with my dual extrusion, because of the Y splitter, I've actually swapped that whole thing to 2mm, and I'm using a V6 because I found the Dragon, with how tight the tolerances are with the Dragon, was causing issues. Because with the Dragon, if you look at how a Y splitter, you're constantly having to deal with retractions, and retracting that bulb out of filament, it was jamming up on me constantly. Because it would go to feed it back in, and it would just get caught and it would jam. So I switched to the V6 with just regular 2mm, and it's working fine. Well, fine-ish. It's still It's still nowhere near as reliable as any of my other printers, but that's because of the Y splitter, not because of it's a switch wire. Like, switch wire is reliable as hell. Slapping a Y splitter on any printer just makes it more of a pain in the butt to work with. Tweezers. Dang it. Come on. Up. There we go. Okay. Okay, let's see here. So now we can get this back down all the way. So by having it down all the way, we can see how much we got to go up. So that'll start there, and that'll go up and around and over. Okay. All the spiral wrap. Let's see. Switcher. Yeah, bed flingers do take up a lot more room than any box frame printer usually. Simply for the fact that you need the bed has to move and double the Y distance essentially. Like, this thing has pretty much the same print volume as a V0 and it's bigger in every dimension. X, Y, and Z. Okay. What about drafts for AVS? Got the... Yes, that's another thing. That's one of the things I kind of want to test one day is... So you always want to enclose for ABS, right? The least amount of moving air. Now, you can enclose your printer if you have an absolute dead room and you close the door and you don't have the air conditioning or anything on, and it'll probably be okay. But you want to keep as much heat close to the bed as possible. That's why we enclose our printers, okay? So with a bed flinger, I want to try this out one day, but my theory is think of it like a waiter balancing a plate, right? So you got your bed, and you got your print on it. So your waiter, you got your glass of water, okay? If you have two glasses of water and you're moving this way, it's better to have them side by side than front to back. Because think of the hot air on your bed. As it's moving front and back, if you can minimize that movement, that hot air is going to sit in the middle and kind of just sit there. If you're moving all the way front and back, it's going to fall off, okay? You know hot air rises, but it's going to fall off, okay? So I would think if you're printing ABS parts on a bed flinger, you would basically want to have everything arranged through the middle axis of your bed along the X at like Y, whatever the middle of your bed is. Because that way your bed isn't really moving as much, because the X gantry can move, right? Because that can move, right? But the bed doesn't move as much. You're minimizing bed movement, which means more heat sits on top of the bed. That's my like kind of theory. I don't know. I need to try it out one day to see if that even has an impact, if that's even a noticeable thing or not. I would like to think it is, but yeah. I probably could just sleeve these, but I have like 20 feet of this sleeving or cable wrap. So that's my theory on bed flingers and ABS. Enclose and try and keep the bed moving as little as possible. And personally, I think that's a better idea with bed flingers. Minimize your bed movement as much as you can, because that's going to be your one axis with the biggest impact on print speed and quality. So arrange stuff along your X, not your Y. Building printers is a slow process sometimes. It's honestly the wiring. Like if you look at my V2 or the V2 and the V0 build videos, I spent 2-3 episodes completely on just wiring. Why are you still here, Ray? Because you got nothing else to do on a Saturday night. That's why we're all here. I couldn't be doing anything better right now. I started streaming because I'm down here, and I figure I might as well do something instead of just being down here by myself. Plus, people kept asking. I figure this is an easier way to answer a lot of questions that always pop up, because then you just pop in, ask them, and I could just explain. Plus, this will contribute to Voron printing somehow, because once this is up, I'm going to try and show people how to print ABS on an entry-level machine. So that way we can all make better stuff. There we go. Okay, so that's going to come across there. So I'm going to zip tie that to that because why not? All the zip ties. There we go. Hopefully this motor doesn't get too hot. I don't think it will. So I'm going to have to cut that. You're going to come out. You're going to go through there. You're going to go there. And I'm going to get another zip tie. Because zip ties are our friends here. There we go. And then we're going to have a zip tie. That ain't a zip tie, that's part of a zip tie. It's good to have on while playing with... Yeah, I need to... I don't know, F360, they did their update there, and now I can't save anything as STL, or... I don't know if I got to change something or what. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really looked into it. But that's another reason that this build was delayed for so long. Because I wanted to take a moment to try and teach myself Fusion 360. So I can redesign some of this. Because there's some stuff on here I don't like. But then they did their update there. And now Fusion 360 I can't do a lot of stuff. And yada yada yada. So... AZ Cowboy 1, $50, man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm not leading the way. We're all in this together. I'm learning. You're learning. We're all learning. That's why I'm doing this, because I just want everyone to have better printers and know more about 3D printing. Cleaning out metal dust isn't always a good thing when you got the electronics board installed, but whatever. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the stream tonight. Oh, Timpack. What? Oh, it's a... Yeah. Okay, so that doesn't look too bad for our let's see here. So camera 2. Yeah, so we have our, let me move up all the way. Oh, my camera's in the way. Hide me. There we go. So that ain't too bad there. And then we got the free range of motion there, and then come back down. The thing is, I like Fusion 360 because it's a full AutoCAD software. Like, that's kind of one of the reasons I don't like I don't want to learn like FreeCAD or any Tinkercad or any of the other ones. You know, part of me wants to learn like, quote unquote, the real thing. I would love to get like a CATIA license or an AutoCAD license or something, but that ain't gonna happen. I was gonna try before COVID and all that hit to actually transfer it, the shop I work at, and try and get into design, because why learn it for free when you could get paid to learn it? But then COVID hit, and you know, that kind of put a whole damper in a lot of things. So. Damn you, Rona. Okay, so let's start hooking up some stuff. So, we're going to go all ye olde mass of wires style here. Because, why not? It's a crappy i3. We're going to wire it up like a crappy i3. So I've seen a V0 modded with larger beds and a V2.0 mini crane at a time. Which do you think prefer? Okay, so the thing is, cost-wise, a V2 is quite expensive to do at a small size, because you're not saving that much money by going little, because you have to still get 7 motors, 8 rails. It's still an expensive build even at a small size. My personal thing with the Voron, so my belief with sizes with Vorons. If you're building under 200, V0. If you're building 200 to 250, V1. You know, the V1 can go up to 300. Personally, I think 250 is like it's good size, because it's actually no, it's got rails now, so you can go up to 300. But at 300, I think you get more out of a V2, and then a V2 is 250 to 350. Now there is a bit of an overlap between the V1 and the V2. That really comes down to personal preference. If you're going 350, go with the V2, simply for the fact that with that much size, you want the mass down low. The V1 will allow, or the V2 will allow you to print faster than a V1. Print quality, they both use the same gantry and the same tool head. Print quality will pretty much be the same between the two. The only thing you might have to worry about on a V1 is there's the potential for lead screw wobble, because you have lead screws instead of the V2 where it's all belted. The V2 is also a little bit more complicated of a build. It is more expensive of a build too. So the V1, V2 is more of a personal preference thing. But in terms of size, if you're going to go small, go V0. If you're going to go big, go V2 or V1. But yeah, anything from 120 to 200. Personally, with a V2 or V0, the biggest I would personally go is 180. Build volume, simply for the fact that you'd be able to use a Prusa mini bed. You would have to modify the mount for it. So you'd have to cat up a mount for it, but you'd be able to use a Prusa mini bed, and you would be able to just buy 50 millimeter longer extrusions and rails, and you'd be good. You wouldn't have to like get oddball size anything. So, and yeah, you can run the gantry on a V2 or on a V1 as fast as a V2 gantry. I'm saying more that you're going to have a lot of mass up top at the beginning of a print, because your bed's going to be up there. You might have a little bit more wobbles. You might not be able to push the acceleration and whatnot. But that with Input Shaper now being able to, you know, crank everything to the max, I need more data to say. Theoretically, they can run almost the same speed, but you might have more wobbles depending on, you know, higher mass up. You want a lower center of gravity to go faster. Shoot, I missed a bunch of chat there. Yep, waiting on. Come on, Eddie, hurry up. Okay, so it is time to wire stuff up. Means I'm gonna have to undo this. Crud. But honestly, for the most part, it comes down to personal preference. Build what you want to build. If you want something small, build a V0. If you want something big, build whatever one you want. Switch wire is kind of... If you want to... Now, here's the thing with switch wire. Switch wire is great, in my opinion. I built one because dev life, and I don't own a bed flinger, and I wanted a bed flinger. Because I wanted something that would be easier to slap dual extrusion on, and something that it's, you know... It's easier to toy around with because you don't have to worry about 3 axes of movement of the gantry, of the tool head, just 2. You know, a V1 could have been the same thing, but I already have Core XY. So I built the switch wire because of that. But for, you know, average Joe building a switch wire, either you want a bed flinger and you have Core XYs, or personally, I would build a switch wire if you already had hardware from a Mendel style, i3 style printer, a Prusa Mark II. If you want to cannibalize a Mark III's, go ahead. An Ender 3, a CR10, some other bed flinger where you can reuse the power supply, you can reuse the frame, you can reuse the bed. That's the big thing, the bed. Because at that point, like the frame itself, if you look at how everything's laid out on the frame, you really can almost use any style frame extrusions and just mount everything. You might have to modify a few of the components a little bit to make sure everything mounts right and lines up. But 3030 is relatively common, so you can pretty much, very little modification, you know, use an Ender 3 frame or a CR10 frame or any other common 3D printer frame as the base of your switch wire, and then you reuse your bed, you reuse your power supply. Heck, you can reuse your controller board with your A4988s, just flash a clipper on it. You know, stock Marlin does support Core XZ. Where is my good crimper? Where's my crimper? Oh, there it is. Don't want to lose that. In terms of like absolute limits, pretty much like, here's the thing with 3D printers, okay? We hit our peak with print quality probably a while ago, okay? You're limited now by features and the hot end, okay? Pretty much all Vorons can outrun a hot end, okay? Pretty much all modern design printers can outrun a hot end, okay? As long as you're not running 8-bit Marlin on like an 888. But even then, and even if you can't outrun the hot end, so even with a super better hot end, you're still limited by the fact that we are spewing molten plastic out of a nozzle. You're going to have to be able to heat the plastic up from solid to liquid, extrude it, lay it down, and then re-solidify it within such a short amount of time that even if you had a hot end that had like unlimited speed, or extrusion speed, you're still going to run into issues because you almost literally can't melt and re-solidify the plastic fast enough at certain speeds to get quality out of it. So you're going to take a hit of quality. Now, like, I've pushed this guy to 300 millimeters a second printing. And, you know, whenever you see the videos of printers printing super fast, it's always a cube. It's always a generic shape with no detail. Because when you're trying to print a Benchy at 300 millimeters a second, and I have a video on my YouTube channel where I'm trying to print a Benchy at, like, some stupid high speed, like flat out stupid high speed, it looks like poop because you're not giving the chance for the plastic to set, right? It's like concrete, right? You got to give concrete a chance for it to set up, and if you don't, it's just going to slump, and if it slumps, you're done. I hate JST connectors. I really hate JST connectors. Come on. Ears didn't come out. So yeah, right now with 3D printing, its features, stuff like input shaper, like, you know, some of the cool stuff, that's the stuff that's going to be the next big thing. Because in terms of like print quality, like all printers can print good as long as you take the time to tune it right, okay? So whenever I see, that's why I like whenever I do like, you know, I go over something or I review something or whatever, I'm never sitting there going, look at this Benchy, look at this Benchy. Because honestly, if you take the top 10 most commonly purchased 3D printers below like $2,000 and you print a Benchy on all of them after spending, you know, the time to actually tune everything right and, you know, correct any minor deficiencies. Now, if I, you know, a stock ANET probably has a crap, you know, what can I say? Okay, basically, if you can print something off in less than 12 hours, that makes the printer much better. You should be able to use that in a comparison because it'll take you, like, you know, it's a 3D printer. You're going to be modifying it. X Endstop. Yeah, X, yeah. I'm going to swap those two around. But yeah, if any 3D printer can print good, okay? Comparing print quality between printers is kind of like a, I'm not saying a lost cause, but it's not a valid comparison in my opinion, for the most part. There's better ways to compare printers. Actually, I like it the other way. Voron tier resin. So resin isn't as hot as FDM. And the thing with resin, that really model makers, like people into like, you know, who like pissing off Warhammer 40,000 lawyers and Games Workshop lawyers. The problem with the big difference between FDM and resin, FDM you could do a lot more with. And plus, people like to print big. It's stupid because everyone builds a printer or buys printers bigger than they need, and there's always downsides to going big. Like, only go as big as you want. But most resin printers have a small print volume, and people want to print big. Okay? So, I think that's another problem with resin, is you can't go big on resin. Although I haven't looked at resin in a while, I don't know how big they can get. Okay, so assuming we have reached the limits of FDM, what would you replace FDMZ? FDMZ, what do you mean? Okay, so this is the X motor. Stepped on a screw. Oh. Yeah, plus resin, you got to deal with, you know, cancer and all the it's a mess, right? Like you got to deal with the resin. You got to print the object, and you got to take the object out with gloves and clean it, cure it. It's just, there's a lot of work involved with resin. People want to, you know, you saw earlier, I finished the print, I took off the bed and went, and the popped off and it was done, and it's in the printer now. Like, people want simple. Like, if resin comes to the point where you could just print it in resin and just pop it off the plate and it's done, and you know, maybe just rinse it off with hot or cold water and you're fine, oh, that'll be great. But until that point, it's you know, it's going to be more of a niche. Replacing FDM, nothing's really going to replace FDM. You know, there's like SLS and whatnot, but those are different things. Basically, you know, until something like some type of plastic comes along that'll allow you to print super fast with still detail, that has like the mechanical properties that we want, it's like stagnating, right? Like personally, I think FDM is starting to stagnate. Because there's nothing really big on the horizon. Like what's big? So we got what, the CR10 or the CR, what's the next one? Creality C6, which is basically, it's an Ender 3 with bells and whistles, which is a mini CR10, which is a big version of a mini CR10, which is not the same as an Ender 3 Max. Like, I'm sorry, Creality, but the vast majority of your printers are exactly the same with just a few different bells and whistles, slightly different methods of construction, and slightly different print volumes. But they're all pretty much the same. Now, they have the CR30 or whatever the belt printer is, which, you know, belt printers have their uses, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be printing dozens of Benchies day after day after day. Plus, what is the bed they use on a lot of those? It's like Kapton, isn't it? Plus, it's got to be flexible, right? So what's going to happen to your bed when you Z negative China and take a chunk out of your bed on a moving bed or on a rolling bed? Is there like, how much is a replacement bed? Like, because go on the 3D printing subreddits or the Discord or whatever, and people damage their printers quite often. So yeah, so I don't think belt printers are going to be like the next big super thing. I think it more as just of a niche item. Like, some people will get use out of it. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, when COVID hit and everyone was printing the mask neck strap things and face shields. Oh yeah, they would have been great for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing them, but that's a kind of a niche case. Yeah, printing at 45 degrees allows an amazing overhang, but is it only applicable in the one direction? Plus, then you're having to deal with different material strengths, because a lot of items right now are designed for like strength reasons to be printed in the current orientation of most 3D printers. So you're going to have to take that into account when you're printing with a printer like that. That items that are would be strong on certain axes on a printer, on like a traditional printer, won't be as good on a Cartesian or on a belt printer with a 45 degree axis, because not all of them have 45 degree axes. Personally, I would just get flex plates and just swap out flex plates. That's what I would do. Hey, we have one motor installed. What time is it? Okay, so we're coming up on 11, and I'll do my traditional at 11. I'll call it. I'll leave it open for like another 10-15 minutes or whatever. Shoot the shit. Answer any questions anyone has. And then we'll call it from there. Because I'm actually kind of hungry right now. It's one of those days when I had an early breakfast, but I had like a very late lunch, early dinner. So now I'm hungry again. Okay, so this is the... which motor is this? This is the extruder motor. Which goes to there. Do I plan on enclosing Tallboy? Yes, I do. I'm not going to go all super fancy like V226s here. I'm probably just going to enclose all the sides with Coroplast, which I have somewhere. I got to dig it out. I'm probably just going to go Coroplast and then just a front door. I'm not going to go super all enclosed with Tallboy. Tallboy was literally built because I wasn't using my V1 anymore. Because it was a V1.5. So I was going to upgrade it to a V2. And I don't print a lot of big stuff that often. So honestly, like, it's been used once since I made that video. Where I streamed printing the Eiffel Tower. Which isn't on my channel because it's like, for some reason, YouTube doesn't like a 32-hour stream on my channel for some reason. So I can't access it. I can't download it. Because I was going to download it and then just, re-uploaded it sped up or whatever. But YouTube just like, nope, I'll let you stream it, but you ain't never seen it again afterwards. So I've only like used it once or twice since then. Wage, setting printers on their side. A ton of people have printed with their Vorons on their side. That used to be back in the V2.0 days. There was an issue. I can't remember what the issue was, but there was a common issue that enough people had where a lot of people printed with their Vorons on their side. It had something to do with remember the early V2.0 Z was 2-to-1 geared. And there were some issues with it. So a lot of people actually printed on their sides. Now, fighting gravity for a print, for overhangs, I could flip one of my printers over and try printing upside down. See if that makes a massive improvement in overhangs. But you're still going to have issues because the plastic will just droop in another direction. And there'll probably be cleaner overhangs, but they're still going to come out with a defect, I believe. So I might do that. I might try doing like a calibration print in a traditional way and then flip a printer over and try it upside down just to see if there's any difference. Because the thing with overhangs, right, it really depends on the part, but a smart person designs with FDM in mind if they're designing parts. Now, if you're designing a model, right, you want to, get the Games Workshop lawyers on your back and you want to print some Tau minis or whatever, yeah, go do whatever because you can't, take FDM into account a lot of the time there. But if you're trying to design something for printing on FDM, when you're designing it, you should be taking into account FDM and how FDM prints and the material limitations and mechanical limitations of it. But that's just me. I like to deal with what causes the problem instead of trying to rectify the problem without fixing what's underneath. Okay, so extruder 1 is right there. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to call it there for now. I might play around with this during the week, get it more wired up, because I know you guys don't want to watch me just streaming wiring all night. So I'm hoping, we'll see how far I get. Maybe get some movement out of it. I still got to order a Raspberry Pi for this guy. But as always, while I'm cleaning up here, I'll leave the floor open if anyone has any questions, wants to chat about anything, wants me to look at any other printers or whatever, critique them, whatever you want. Go ahead. Open floor time. It does look a bit better now, I will say. Why do I have Y-splitter parts? It is cleaning up. It is starting to look like an actual printer and not a pile of wires. So. So just to put it in comparison, let's see here. I'll put that guy here. And let me grab my zero. Now, granted, the zero. Ooh, then it's plugged in. 1 second. Oh yeah, I was printing with it. So the zero does have a spool of filament on it, but just to compare apples to apples here, size-wise, here. So putting this guy so that the back touches the back of the mat here, and the other side touches the other side of the mat. I don't think I have enough room here. You can see it's coming up over the front, and we got to about yeah. Okay, and then height-wise, it's 29 centimeters tall. Okay, now I'm not counting the spool because you can put the spool wherever you want. Now a zero for comparison. And it is 28 centimeters tall, but we do have the cables on top. So just footprint ride. You can see how much more space efficient a Core XY printer is in the same print volume. Man, I'm hungry. But it does look like a printer now. There we go. Hoping those printed couplers hold out. We'll see. Okay. Let's see here. Hey, just stopping by to thank you for all the videos you've made. They really help me. That's good to hear, man. That's why I do them. I do these because they help people, and they're fun. I enjoy doing this. It gives me something to do. I started really going into the videos when COVID hit because I was stuck at home and can't really do anything. What do? I am a tool maker. I build plastic injection molds. I'm just a wrench monkey on the floor, basically. Okay, so I think we're going to call it there. If the printed couplers don't work, go old school and use tubing. I think the printed would work better than tubing, hopefully. That's really old school. Yeah, I'm hoping that this should work just fine. Yeah, I'll just stick that underneath. I gotta clean all the dust off this thing. This thing's dusty. Man, this is an old school, like, there's so much flex on this. That's one, I don't like rods because you can't support them. It's either start or stop. There's no mid support. It's one of the nice things with extrusions is you can support them through the whole travel. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm going to call the stream here. Yeah, get something in my piece of metal in my sock. So I'm going to call the stream there, guys. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Hope you all had fun. I know this stream and the next one and the next maybe the other one after that are going to just be, you know, faffing about down here, I think. No grand plan for the next little while for streams. There might be a big project in the future. We'll see. But for now, I think we're just going to do random odds and ends each night just to kind of give us all something to do on a Saturday night or whenever you watch the VOD. A lot of people watch them after. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Ring that bell, like the video, comment, whatever the algorithm likes. I don't know. It does what it does. I have a Twitter now, at 3DPNero. Hit me up there, join, chat. I don't know. I just use it to kind of communicate, share some stuff. What else? If you want to share the videos, if you know anyone who's interested, 3D printing or whatever, go ahead, share them. Why not? We'll see. Anyways, I'm going to go get some food. I think I got some leftover macaroni I'm going to heat up. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. Have a good night, everyone. Be safe out there. Wash your hands. And peace.